Ever wondered who really sang Never Enough? Loren Allred, the powerhouse voice behind the song from The Greatest Showman, became a sensation overnight, but her story doesn't end there. From a Britain's Got Talent performance to a heartbreaking tragedy, Loren's journey is full of surprises. Stay tuned, because in today's video, we will reveal the powerful moments that defined her and all that shaped the artist we know today. Loren Allred, humble beginnings. Loren Allred grew up in a home where music was more than just a hobby. Her singing teacher mother and famous musician father had made the house a place where songs were as common as coffee in the morning. As a child, Loren grew up surrounded by instruments, sheet music, and the constant buzz of creation. Still, Loren wasn't the sure-of-herself performer that many people thought she would be in this encouraging setting. Despite being clearly talented, Loren had a hard time believing in herself. She wasn't the type of kid who jumped at the chance to sing solo at school events or to take the mic at family gatherings. Instead, she slowly got better, sometimes going to her room to train by herself. When she wasn't being watched, she would copy the moves of her favorite artists and make up her own sound. At the time, not many people could tell, but this quiet commitment sets her up for future success. Living with parents who were so successful as a child made her fears worse in some ways. Behind the scenes, there was a lot of pressure on her to live up to high standards. Loren often questioned whether she was good enough or whether her voice could ever be unique. Because her parents were supportive and never pushed her, Loren set these high standards for herself. It would take her years to break down these mental walls. What made a big difference was when Loren's school choir director saw her talent, reluctantly agreed to lead a show in their own town. Even though it was stressful, when she sang that first note, something changed. Instead of letting her know how good she was, the cheers that followed were a wake-up call. Loren learned for the first time that her voice could move people, and she kept that idea with her. Things were not always easy, though. The people who liked Loren didn't go away overnight. As she watched her friends act, she would sometimes wonder if she would ever feel the same way. Instead of letting that stop her, she became even more passionate. Loren started making videos of herself singing and sending them to close family and friends. Over time, these people would gently boost her confidence. In her early years, her father was one of the most important people in her life. As a singer, he knew what Loren was going through and often stressed how important it was to be honest. "You don't have to be the loudest in the room to be heard," he would tell her. Those words really spoke to Loren, and they became her theme through everything she was going through. Loren's involvement in a small talent show in the area was yet another important event. It wasn't a very important event, but for Loren, walking out on that stage was a huge deal. She chose a song that meant a lot to her and put all of her feelings into her act. As the crowd stood to applaud her, she began to cry. Not only was she trying to win, she was also trying to show herself that she belonged on stage. However, Loren's road was not easy, even after events like these. At interviews, people told her that her voice wasn't right for the job or that she wasn't marketable enough. Even so, Loren turned every painful refusal into an idea. She would go back to her piano and change the order of songs, work on her range, and improve her skills. One of her best qualities became even stronger over time, even though she didn't fully understand it at first. Loren's mother had a big impact on how she used her words at home. As Loren's voice teacher, she would lead her through exercises that would help her improve her range and control. Even though they usually laughed at the end of class, they taught Loren the basics of how to sing correctly. Loren kept making songs behind closed doors and putting them on sites like SoundCloud in the hopes that someone would hear them. These quiet tries were the first things that got the attention of business leaders. Even though the recognition came in small chunks at first, it was enough to keep Loren steadily moving forward. What problems did Loren face before she started to shine, though? Loren clearly had a lot of promise, but her early years were marked by her constant battle with self-doubt and drive to do her best. It was just as important for her to question herself and prepare in silence as it was for her to finally get applause. Her path wasn't about becoming famous quickly. It was about having guts, sticking with it, and believing she could make something important. Many people were enthralled by Loren's music because of these early events, which showed that a star can still shine even when there is question. Little did Loren know the song that spoke to her heart would become the anthem that introduced her to millions, the song that changed everything. Loren took the chance of a lifetime, which sent her path in a strange direction. She was asked to sing Never Enough, a song that was supposed to be one of the best parts of The Greatest Showman. She didn't really look for a gig. Instead, the people who made the movie's music heard the quiet demos she sent in to try to get found. They were mesmerized by her deep emotional voice, which was just what the music needed. The twist is that Loren wasn't supposed to be in a movie. To play the glamorous opera singer Jenny Lind in the movie, Rebecca Ferguson would lip-sync to Loren's creepy voice and sing the song. I think Loren thought it was a mixed bag. On the one hand, she was excited to be a part of such a big project. On the other hand, staying in the shadows made her think about the fears that had been with her since she was a child. Never Enough wasn't just a song, it was a cry for more, even when you have everything you need. Loren strongly connected with the song's themes. Like him, she had always felt like nothing she did was good enough. She had a great voice for the music because she struggled with self-doubt and always felt like she had to prove herself. She put her real self into every song, not just acting. When Never Enough first came out, it caused a lot of trouble. The song topped lists everywhere, and the high voice captivated listeners. A lot of people kept talking about how moving it was. And while Rebecca Ferguson got most of the attention for her role, Loren's name was almost invisible in the credits. Why didn't Loren just go ahead and do it? It turned out that the answer wasn't simple. For some, it might have been a planned job move or a legal agreement, but for Loren, it was more personal. She wasn't ready to take the lead. The thought of being watched by everyone and having to live up to the ridiculously high standards set by the song was crippling. Loren thought about this decision alone. Friends and family told her to take advantage of the chance, but Loren wasn't sure. Because she was so hard on herself, she wondered if she earned the attention. What if they hear me live and it doesn't measure up? She couldn't come out of the darkness because of that thought cycle. The strange thing is that Loren was worried about not being good enough, but her voice already captivated everyone. Questions about the mysterious singer of Never Enough were asked on fan sites and in social media posts. The credits were looked through slowly but surely, and Loren's name began to appear. Loren stayed away from her. She stayed anonymous and let the music speak for itself. She then watched in silence as a wave of thanks grew around her work. Loren rarely got up on stage until she tried out for Britain's Got Talent many years later. Though Never Enough made her voice famous, Loren's Britain's Got Talent audition revealed the star behind the song. The moment the world knew her name. As Loren Allred walked onto the Britain's Got Talent stage, she seemed both calm and determined. It could not have been more important for someone whose voice had already touched millions of people through The Greatest Showman. The judges and the crowd didn't know what to expect from her because she was standing still but clearly nervous. People in the crowd started to mutter when she introduced herself and said, "I'm the voice behind Never Enough." Some people gasped while others looked at them with doubt. How could someone with such a good reputation still need to show herself? As the first chords of Never Enough entered the room, Loren put an end to all doubt. Everyone in the room paid attention to her voice because it was raw and strong. Simon Cowell moved forward and narrowed his eyes. He is known for being very serious. Amanda Holden clearly moved by putting her hands to her chest, and David Walliams turned to look at his fellow judges in shock. The crowd cheered during the middle of Loren's show, but she didn't move. When she played the last note, everyone in the room stood up and gave her a standing applause. The judges looked as amazed as they were. That became very popular as soon as her test aired. Videos of her act were shared all over social media, and within hours, Loren's name was going viral around the world. People who had grown attached to Never Enough were finally able to figure out who sang it. Still, this new glory was also criticized. Almost right away, there was an argument. A professional singer was put on a talent show meant for undiscovered performers, and many watchers wondered if it was fair. They said that Loren already had a lot of followers, so her participation gave her an unfair edge. People who supported her said that she had every right to run. Loren answered these questions with ease, saying that her voice had been heard everywhere, but that she had never been thought of as an artist in her own right. In order to be clear, she said that this rivalry wasn't about becoming popular, but about taking the lead, which she had avoided for too long. The event only made people curious about Loren's path. Week after week, she put on amazing shows, each one stronger than the last. Loren always got people moving, whether she was singing hard vocal arrangements or sad songs. Not only did her technical skills set her apart, but so did her ability to connect personally with every song. Her weakness was a big part of what made her appealing. Loren wasn't afraid to be open about her years of self-doubt and the fears that had kept her from going after her goals. She told personal stories that made her acts even more complex. In a heartbreaking backstage chat, Loren talked about how her father had been her biggest fan, but couldn't be there to see her play. She could barely speak as she talked about how much his help had meant to her. To honor the guy who had always believed in her, Loren sung a beautiful song. Even though people were acting nice, there was a secret fight going on. It got hard for me to compete on such a big stage, and the unexpected media attention started to wear me down. Loren was closely watched. People who didn't like her talked about everything she did and asked if she was up to the challenge of the race. The news asked about her mental health, and haters on the internet said she was just trying to get attention. Even though things were hard, Loren wouldn't give up. Every show turned into an act of strength, a reminder to herself and the world that she deserved to be on that stage. Her fans gathered around her and showered her with praise and words of support on social media. The way Loren could put her thoughts into her songs made a strong bond with her fans that could not be broken. In one unforgettable performance, Loren sang a song about getting over your fears and being open to being vulnerable. Amanda Holden was wiping away tears, and Simon Cowell was giving her one of his rare, sincere praises. It was clear that the judges were moved. The crowd did a great job, and their cheers could be heard long after the music stopped. The hidden pain Loren carried. Millions of people were amazed by Loren Allred's shows, but few people knew that the beautiful voice behind the mic was hiding a lot of pain. Among the cheers and standing ovations, Loren was quietly having a hard time with the loss of her father, who had been a guide in her life. He had always been there for her and believed in her abilities, even when she didn't. He was missing, and success could never fix that wound. Taking center stage only made that hole bigger. Her father did more than just support her as an artist, he shaped who she was as an artist. With the heavy grief sometimes making it hard to keep going, every note she sang seemed to connect her to him. Loren would sometimes pass out behind the curtains because she was depressed before she forced herself to write and act. But being weak during these times made her human, not weak. The emotional toll was made worse by the sudden rise in fame she got after her interview went viral. Loren had spent most of her career in the background, content to let her voice grow while she stayed out of the way. Under fame, though, you can't be unknown. People were looking into her personal life, her name was popular online, and her face was on magazine covers. As well as the praise, social media became a double-edged sword and brought criticism. As her fans showered her with praise, critics weren't afraid to say that she was abusing her past successes for her own gain. Self-doubt came in like an unpleasant guest. Loren started to wonder if she earned all the attention, if her skills were good enough, or if her audition had been a mistake. The pressure to live up to the hype never stopped, and every mistake felt worse in the public eye. For someone who had spent years fighting their fears, the weight of demands was almost too much to bear. It even got worse for her mental health. Loren struggled with anxiety. She couldn't stop thinking about being turned down and failing. She couldn't sleep at night because she kept thinking about all the mistakes in her brain that other people probably didn't notice. She was mentally worn out from trying to be perfect all the time. Even so, Loren refused to let these problems define her. When she felt lost, she turned to music as both therapy and a way to pass the time. Writing songs became her way of letting go and turning her pain into something helpful. These were not just songs, but real, honest feelings about her trip. Since each song held parts of her soul, it spoke to anyone who had ever felt invisible or not good enough. The people who helped her also helped her feel more grounded. Loren's mother, who is a very good musician, became her guide during this storm. Their relationship got stronger as they went through the ups and downs of fame together. Loren often talked about how her mother's determination and knowledge inspired her to keep going, even when things didn't look like they could. Still, being famous came with its own problems that her family couldn't protect her from. Journalists were always looking into her personal life. Most of the interviews were about her friendships, relationships, and even her mental health. Loren hated how her fame made people want to be close to her, but she learned to deal with it and practiced the tact she needed to protect her private life. A lot of people didn't see the times Loren felt completely alone. Even though she had a lot of loyal fans, fame can make you feel alone, and she often felt like she didn't belong. There were days when she thought if it was all worth it. With interviews, rehearsals, and performances all the time, she didn't have much time to think about herself. Just as Loren was stepping into the spotlight, an unimaginable event would test her strength and reshape her journey. A life-altering loss. Loren Allred was a rising star, but not long after she won Big Brother, she went through an unimaginable tragedy that broke her heart. Not long after captivating millions of people, Loren's sister died in a terrible accident that would forever change her path. She had a lot of support from her sister, who was also her best friend and companion. She lost someone very important to her, and nothing she did could fill the void. For me, this wasn't just a loss, it was a turning point. Loren began to have doubts about everything, including her job, her goals, and even who she was. Music had always made her feel better, but now it felt heavy. Every song brought back memories, and every act felt like it was full of loss. People who saw her beautiful smile didn't know how hard she worked to keep it up. She often cried backstage or went through strong bouts of depression. Her work life got worse in ways she hadn't expected. After Britain's Got Talent, she got a lot of offers, but Loren didn't take any because she wasn't sure if she could handle the attention while she was still grieving. So she didn't rush into projects. She took a step back and put her family and mental health first. Some people didn't agree with Loren, but she saw it as a matter of survival. Her pain also changed the songs she made. Loren began writing very personal songs about her pain, hoping that they would speak to people who had just lost someone close to them. What started out as a song just for her turned into a way to remember her sister. In talks, Loren was honest about how these songs helped her get better and turn her pain into something that would comfort others. But the business wasn't always nice. As if grief could be nicely tucked into a story, people kept asking Loren how the tragedy had influenced her art. Reporters looked into her personal life to find stories that were annoying rather than inspiring. Loren learned how to handle these situations with ease, but the constant attention was hard during a tough time. She also had to deal with the expectations that came with being famous. Some people thought that her fame kept her from feeling pain and that the love of her fans made it easier for her to deal with her loss. But Loren's loss was just as real and raw as everyone else's. There were days when it seemed impossible to get out of bed or do anything. Still, she found strength in being weak, which was true to Loren. She started being honest with her fans about her trauma and how she was getting better. She built a group outside of music by connecting with people on social media who had been through similar losses. It wasn't just about sharing her pain, it was also about letting people know they weren't alone. Loren also turned her sadness into action. She started working on projects and used her job to talk about mental health problems and how important it is to get help. These projects were started to honor her sister and make sure that her death would help other people. Behind the scenes, Loren depended on her family and close friends the most. They held her down and gave her the support she needed to get through this tough chapter. On each occasion, Loren found new ways to honor her sister's memory. She began adding quiet tributes, like an initial in the background pictures, a note in a song, or a short thank you before a set. Everyone who saw these times was moved by how much she loved her sister and how she carried her spirit on stage, turning tragedy into triumph. Not only did Loren Allred need to use her music as therapy, she also chose to do so. She realized that all of her pain, hope, and strength were going into her songs. Loren's singing became her lifeblood instead of just a job. Often with tears in her eyes, she would write songs late at night in the studio that were true to her life. Not just songs, these were confessions, prayers, and words for anyone who has ever felt the weight of loss. People who agreed with them reacted quickly to this honest truth. Messages came in from all over the world about how Loren's music moved them. One fan wrote that she had lost her father just days before hearing Loren's song. She talked about how the songs had pushed her to go to the funeral. Someone else told how they got over years of sadness by using Loren's story as a model for their own search for help and a return to pleasure. These letters were more than just words on paper. They were reminders that Loren's pain was necessary. She began to see herself as more than just an artist. She was a voice for those who couldn't speak up, and a lighthouse for those who were fighting in silence. Every friend who got in touch with her gave her new reasons to keep writing about her experiences. On stage, Loren showed that she was strong. Her shows have a depth that can't be taught or practiced. Every sound had the emotional power to pull people into her world. In one especially powerful show, Loren took a moment between songs to give people hope. She told the crowd, "Everyone has times when life is unbearable, but those times don't make us who we are. Our rise is what makes us unique." The applause that followed praised her strength more than her singing. Loren's return wasn't about getting back to fame. It was about getting back to herself. She started working with artists who shared her vision and made songs that were more than just hits. They showed connection. One of her projects, a song about finding hope in the dark, became a symbol for people who are going through tough times in their own lives. Some of the people who needed it the most found Loren's physical and symbolic words very moving. She also started being more open about her own story in interviews. Loren was honest about the times she felt lost and confused about her goal, the therapy sessions that helped her feel better about herself, and the times she found happiness in strange places. Her honesty was welcome in a field that is sometimes too focused on perfection. Loren wanted to be honest. She didn't care about how she looked. Supporters took note of the change. When they saw a woman, she didn't feel bad about showing off her wounds because she thought it was a sign of pride. Loren's strength became an example for everyone, not just those dealing with sadness, but also those just getting through life. Her story helped other people understand that it's normal to make mistakes, get hurt, and heal. Loren always made time to talk to people whose lives had been changed by her songs while she was on tour. She listened to their stories and gave them words of hope and maybe even a hug. These things happened for her as well as them. Each relationship made her more sure that she was on the right path and that her music was making a difference in people's lives. The strength Loren showed went beyond her songs. She started to raise awareness about mental health by using her fame to talk about how important it is to get help and break down the taboos around therapy. Loren worked with businesses to raise money for mental health services. She gave the money she made from certain events to causes that were important to her. Life after the spotlight. Today, Loren Allred seems to have made a path that is all her own. She doesn't look for traditional ways to be successful or follow the rules of the business anymore. She has instead chosen to focus on projects that are truly important to her, ones that heal her personally as well as the people who listen to her songs. People who like her most recent works like how honest she is. Every song sounds like a conversation or a sensitive moment between Loren and her fans. She has said before that when she writes, she tries to connect with people. Now it's not about radio numbers or awards. It's about making something that connects with people on a deeper level. Still, Loren's influence goes beyond music. She now speaks out loudly about mental health and uses her position to start important conversations. She talks honestly and positively about how she has dealt with worry and loss in her own life. In interviews, she always talks about how important it is to get help, saying, "Asking for help is not weakness. It's one of the bravest things you can do." There are also companies that Loren works with that focus on mental health tools and grief therapy. She has worked with groups to support music therapy programs because she thinks art can help heal mental wounds. These activities are not just hobbies for her. They are very important to her. She knows firsthand how music can make her feel better when she is sad. Fans are still moved by Loren's trip. People have written a lot of messages on her social media sites about how her songs have helped them deal with their own problems. One fan wrote that Loren's songs saved them when they were feeling hopeless, and another said that her honesty about loss made them go to therapy after putting it off for years. Loren often tells her fans that they are not alone when she responds to these posts. Her live shows are now more intimate, and she usually holds them in smaller spaces so she can get to know her fans better. During these presentations, Loren tells parts of her story, which reminds everyone that sadness and happiness can live together. These are even stronger because they haven't been changed or treated in any way. Loren coaches up-and-coming artists when she's not on stage or in the studio. It's important to her that they stay true to themselves while she guides them through the complicated music business. For Loren, being strong, being honest, and knowing your worth are more important than just being able to do something. One of the most amazing things about Loren's road is how she has been able to make her problems seem important. Her singing and advocacy work do more than just help her deal with her own pain. They also help others do the same. She has become a voice for the hurting, giving comfort and strength to those who need it the most. Thanks for watching today's video about Loren Allred's journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of triumph and inspiration. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for another triumphant story.